Our first summer was 1957. I remember of doing costumes that summer already, and staying up late at night making things because the family took all the daytime hours. I was not a theater person to begin with, but it was a situation of if you can't link them, join them. So that's how I became a stagecoacher. I kick and scream, but anyway. So I certainly did an awful lot when we finally got involved. But I had 4 children to take care of first. Sure. But I always tried to be a very supportive wife, and I really think I did a pretty good job of that. He would either direct or act in at least one play each season, and I always was either the costume person, or and I always helped put up the set, and grew into being a stage manager, and did practically everything there was to do. And finally, I even ended up on the stage, but mostly I'm a backstage person.
Hello, I'm Gary Matten. I have to say that of anybody who's currently working with the theater, that I probably date back just a few years further than they did, starting in 1968. And so that spring of '68, I auditioned and got a great part as Matt in The Fantasticks. And the interesting thing about that, it's really the first Broadway-type musical that the theater had ever done. R. McDonald Brown was the director of that. He'd had some professional experience in New York in the theater. And so I think we came up with a very good performance.
Hi, my name is John McHugh. I've been involved with Stagecoach Theater since 1971. That's over 40 years, I know that. Originally I got involved with Stagecoach because I enjoyed acting in high school. I did a lot of different things in high school and Boy Scouts where it required acting type ability. And when I got out of the Army, I saw an ad advertising auditions, so I just came out and auditioned, and I've been here ever since.
I joined Stagecoach in 1982. Clark Neer was the first person that ever said the words Stagecoach Players to me. So all these years later, it's all his fault. I auditioned during general auditions, and I got cast in a musical called Pal Joey as a stripper. I got to wear a fantastic sunflower costume, which was just very, very fun, and sang and danced, and there were quite a lot of people in that show, and Bob Kane directed it.
My name is Bernie Schuneman. I started with Stagecoach in 1989, by accident actually. I learned from a stagecoacher who knew a stagecoacher who knew a director who needed guys. Surprise.
And I'm Sarah Pager, and I'm at Stagecoach because that's my dad, and he got me on stage, let's see, it's 1992. The very first time I was on stage, I was on there, I think, for all of 5 minutes in Bet Your Heart, written by our own beloved Francis. He was also the man who wrote the NIU fight song, incredibly talented man, and did wonderful things for our theater, so I got to be on that stage. I waltzed, I learned how to do a box step, and
Hi, I'm Gloria Dennison, and I've been with Stagecoach since 1992. My first show was To Kill a Mockingbird, and I did lights. And it was an adventure at that time. We were out in the old building out on Barbara Green Road, and we didn't have a fun computerized light board. We just had these great big levers that we pulled up and down. So if we had to do multiple light cues, you had to be very talented.
My name is Barbara Andre, and I've been with Stagecoach Players since 1995. I've I've heard about Stagecoach Theater for many years. I'd never gone to a production. I'd never come to the theater. I thought, you know, my kids are grown. I'm going to get back into it. So I auditioned and I got a part in Ravenscroft. And that was a show that we were still in our old building on Barbara Green Road. It was a Victorian murder mystery. We were dressed in costumes up to our necks, down to the floor. And it was the hottest days of the century, I'm pretty sure. And we were so hot. And we had sweat dripping off the ends of our noses as we were doing our lines. And one of the lines was walking to the window and saying, "I think it's about to snow." And we got a laugh every night.
My name is Aaron Scriver. I've been at Stagecoach for about 25 years now. I started by going to an open audition we have for Camelot, and I was cast as Sergeant-in-Arms. It was a musical, of course, Camelot. So, and from that point, I've been around Stagecoach ever since, because you get addicted to this place.
In 1964, Nelson wrote, well, he wrote it a long time ago, but we did it at Stagecoach, called The Young Couple, about two very young girls who acted Shakespeare. So, of course, I was involved with costumes and everything. I remember staying up late one night until 3 o'clock making a British flag, because, of course, this was all taking place in Britain. And we had, among other things on the stage, we had a fancy box fixed for the Queen to come and also enjoy the play with all of us. So one night, the Queen was ready to come down the aisle. This was all in a very old Stagecoach, which you might don't know at all. And the Queen has her entourage with spear carriers and flag bearers and all that kind of thing. And we had some plants in the audience so that they knew when to stand up as soon as the Queen went past their row. So it was all very impressive. And the Queen marched down, of course, to her, whatever they played.
God Save the Queen. And it was Queen Victoria, by the way. Queen Victoria we're talking about. Yes.
And she got up to the stairs and was going on up the stairs, and her spear bearers were going up just behind her. And in that particular theater at that time, the stairs were at the far edge of the stage going up, and just to the right of that was a screen door that went out into the parking lot. So the Queen got up the stairs and a couple of other people got up the stairs. When the last guy got there, he tripped up the stairs, went through the screen door, and landed in the parking lot. And I still giggle every time I see that picture in my mind, because it was so perfect.
After the success of that show, the same director and those of us who were still around decided to do the same show again 9 years later, in 1977. But at that time, of course, I was 9 years older, and I got to play the part of El Gallo that time. So it was fun to be able to do two different roles in the same show. Just to kind of bring you full circle, the last production that they did in that old theater on Barbara Green Road was also the Fantastics, and one of our current stars of the musical theater there, Gavin Wilson, played El Gallo in that particular production. So I was in the first, did a second one. Gavin kind of did the final one at the old theater.
Surprise. We never seem to have enough men audition. So I got into Man of La Mancha without ever having to audition. I've always loved the theater. My mother was an English teacher, so the drama had been taught into us from a very young age. And I just thought that I would enjoy singing and acting and playing on stage. I didn't realize that I would also enjoy all that went into it, the set building, the props, the directing eventually.
I've since directed, designed sets. I was president, run the light board at the old theater. When you had, if it rained, you had to put an umbrella over the light board because the building between the stage block and the house block leaked, and you didn't want water dripping on the light board.
No.
Questionable plumbing.
Questionable, and some of the biggest bugs I've ever seen. You would have thought we were in the Amazon. I don't know where they came from, but they found us, and they, you know, added to the ambiance.
Musicals. I like being in musicals, but I also like being the bad guy. And I've been the bad guy in a couple shows, including Arsenic and Old Lace, where I played Jonathan. And I was Scrooge once, which was a lot of fun, but also a lot of work.
One of the shows I was in was called The Foreigner, and I would continuously get stuck in one place. I don't know what it was about that scene, about those lines. And Tom Sheely was playing across from me, and we finally came to an agreement. I said, Tom, just be prepared because I'm gonna freeze on those lines in that scene. And he obviously knew, because I'd look at him like a deer in headlights. I'd just go,
The next summer I was in Cabaret with Dad and sang that creepy song. And from then on I was around all the time. You know, I remember our old building out on Barbara Green Road. I would spend hours up in we had a loft in our old tin building that I still loved, even though it was old and creaky. There's a big loft where all the costumes and the props were and a lot of the set pieces, and I would just entertain myself for hours up there answering phones and rooting through the pretty dresses and trying on shoes. So I have very fond memories of that old building, and then it was very exciting when we moved over here and we had a theater where we could actually do stuff year-round.
And since 1992, I've gone from doing lights and props to directing my first show in '93, which was Rumors. Great fun, and I've directed lots of different shows since then.
I directed You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown in 1972, and cast for the first time a person who has also contributed a great deal to the theater, and that was Denny Vaupel.
One of the greatest joys of my theater experience was being able to introduce my children to theater.
I also received the Lifetime Achievement Award at Stagecoach Players, so they have certainly recognized my efforts over the years, which has been very nice of them.
We weren't quite sure how she would handle an actual performance, so my wife brought her to a rehearsal. And after the first act, they took their break and they went outside. And my wife asked her, well, so what do you think, Sarah? She says, you have to be quiet. My wife was very pleased that she knew theater etiquette. Yes, they're right. You have to be quiet when they're speaking. She goes, no, you have to be quiet. My foot's asleep. So.
I have a major accomplishment that I always remember. Now, this was when, oh gosh, this has to be 40-some years ago.
Okay.
For the Miracle Worker.
Yes.
And our theater, we kept improving it every year. we had not yet improved it to the point where we have any water connection to the theater. So we were still pretty primitive. And Nelson was asked to direct Miracle Worker. And everybody knows and looks forward to, I think, the scene in Miracle Worker, the big scene, where Helen goes over to the pump and pumps water, and water comes out, and she says voila for the first time of speaking ever. And here we are in a place with no water. So one of our dear also stage characters, Millie Olson, and I spent several days just really trying to work this out. We had the pump, real pump on stage, and we finally came up, it was my idea, I have to admit, that if we approached the neighbor next door, could we please attach a garden hose to his outside faucet and have, a row of people along the way to let the person standing at the faucet know that it was time to turn the water on because Helen was about to pump the pump. And we worked it out, and it wasn't easy, and it took a long time, and we did it. And every single night during performance, when Helen pumped the water, pumped the pump, and the water came out, I feel like I got the applause.
And out of that came one of your greatest expressions, I think, that I've lived my life by, which is, nothing is impossible. Some things just take longer than others.
Well, that's true.
I ended up being president in 2007. I'm sorry, in 2007. I was vice president, and unfortunately, our president passed away, and I ended up taking over the presidency for a few years. And I ended up spending about 7 or 8 years on the board altogether with that run, and I learned a lot about Stagecoach. And I've done everything imaginable. I've done lights, I've done sound, I've produced, I've directed, I've been on stage, and I taught children's classes for a while, and I love doing Stagecoach, and I've met some of my best friends, and I think that's one of our best qualities, is that we become a family and we become friends.
One of the sweetest times of my theater experience was during Cabaret when I got to sing with my daughter.
Yay!
One of my favorite stories, we did Christmas Carol, the one that was adapted by Scott Morris, and unfortunately somebody got sick and I had to take over a role. And he sent somebody over to make sure I had the lines down, so I had most of the lines down. We got to the very last scene, and I was trying to do the lines, and Scrooge comes up to me, and I'm a charity lady, he's supposed to give me a lot of money, and I say thank you, and then I say, I don't know what to say. And then I couldn't remember more of the rest of the lines, so I said, I don't know what to say. And Scrooge goes with his line, and I said, no. I grabbed him and I said, I really don't know what to say, because I couldn't remember any.
As many people have said, I've met people from all basic backgrounds and who have all come together for in my opinion, for the single purpose of putting on the best kind of show that they can do, either musical, drama, or comedy?
I think the best thing about Stagecoach, no matter what your age, no matter what your educational background, is that you get to learn so much about people and about how people interact and about how people come together to do the most fantastic things. The rehearsal period is so much fun. We get to do so many different things, and the audience never gets to see it because it's part of the rehearsal process. They only get to see the, quote, polished things that end up on the stage.
It's a chance to do things on stage that you could be arrested for in public.
Yeah, you get to be whoever you want.
That's right. You can gotta go be a little crazy once every 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love being in Stagecoach. The people are great. There's always something going on. There's always new ideas, new people, old people like me who are trying to keep involved and keep things organized, and we bring a lot of history, but there's a lot of young people coming into the organization that really have a lot of great ideas. We have a fabulous facility here. We're very happy. I'm very happy that we have a building that has heating and air conditioning now and comfortable seats. So I think our audience enjoys that as well. We have many more.
So it's great to have this huge building with all this space. We don't have to makeshift a loft to keep all of our costumes in. And so yeah, I started at age 7, and then through Dad I ended up doing work backstage. I helped build sets. I don't know how helpful I was, but hey, someone has to pick up the screws. That's an important job. So I've done all of that. I've ushered. I'm always interested in learning new things here. It's a really good opportunity to learn new skills, learn new ways to help. It's a great volunteer opportunity, and I've made a lot of great friends here, and I have friends who I was first in a show with over 6 years ago, and we still see each other on a regular basis and still hang out. And plus I met my husband here. Yay! Just got married this last summer. I met him in a show 3.5 years ago, and here we are. We got married, so I'm very fond of Stagecoach. Thank you, Stagecoach.
It's a collective effort of people from different walks of the community coming together for a purpose, to bring enjoyment to people, which is fantastic.
I have cried during strike, partially sometimes because I'm sad to have it all over, and partially it's in relief that we don't have to do that show anymore, and partially...
Almost all the areas of the production. I am no good at sewing, so costumes are not for me. But almost everything else I enjoy, and I enjoy the social aspect as well. Getting together with people that I like being around. That's why some shows you don't ever want them to end, because it's such a great group of people. You could do it forever.
We don't go by years. We go by what show it was we were doing when we met.
You just can't beat it. It's just one of those things that it gets to you, and you can't shake it. It's no matter if you don't come back and do another show, you have to come and see it. You have to visit, because there's some sort of, it's gonna get corny here, but some sort of magic.
What would you advise to new stagecoachers?
To find something else to do would be my is my first reaction. But my second reaction is be sure that you really have the time and can clear your schedule. Because once you start, it will take your life over for the 6 or 8 weeks when you are rehearsing and performing. Nothing else matters during those times except playing.
And I have to say, I have learned more about theater from everybody that's in this organization. And we have one thing in common. It's sharing that information and trying to come together to bring the best possible thing to the audience.
I wish we could do more musicals at Stagecoach. That draws in the biggest crowd, and it usually has the biggest cast, and usually we get a lot of kids in there too. And I like to see kids starting out at Stagecoach because it just makes the theater organization grow.
We used to do, at the most, 5 plays during the summer season, but now, they seem to be going almost, all year long with one thing or another. So it certainly shows the interest in a community theater from the people of DeKalb and the surrounding area.
Been trying to get Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf done on our stage for 15 years. So far, nobody wants to give me the chance to direct it, so we'll see, someday.
First started, there were 17 members, and I know there's over several hundred members now, so it's a lot of fun. My kids and I were in shows together. My sister and I were in 16 shows together. My wife works backstage. My dad used to help with construction. And my mom used to help make costumes once in a while. So it was kind of a family affair, and we've enjoyed it all these years.
Everybody could come and do Stagecoach and meet some of the great people and have the friendships that I do through Stagecoach.
So, happy anniversary, Stagecoach players. I hope there's 70 more in the future for us.
I think we're doing a real good selection of shows, and I think we usually choose some fun shows to do, so that's the great thing about Stagecoach, is we really put on quality shows right here in your hometown.
Being a Stagecoach player member, did it
not only transformed my life, it took it over. I had, it was totally Nelson's life. And I must say, I finally will admit it, it was for the better because it was a lovely experience.